pushed his cleaning cart down the long corridor of Station Helix 7. The wheels squeaked softly against the polished metal floor. It was almost midnight station time, and most of the aliens had gone to their quarters. This was his favorite time to work, quiet, peaceful, no one bothering him. He stopped at a waste disposal unit and emptied it into his cart. A group of tall, blue-skinned aliens walked past him. They were diplomats from somewhere he couldn't pronounce. They didn't look at him. They never did. To them, he was just furniture, just another human doing a simple job. Didn't mind. He had been working as a janitor on this station for 3 Earth years now. He showed up on time, did his work, and went home to his small quarters. The other species on the station barely knew humans existed. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, and most aliens thought humans were primitive and boring. That suited just fine. He moved to the next corridor, wiping down the handrails and cleaning the windows that looked out into space. Thousands of stars glittered in the darkness. Sometimes he stopped to look at them. Space was beautiful when it was quiet like this. "Hey," a voice called out behind him. He turned to see Sara jogging toward him. She was an engineer on the station, one of the few humans who worked here. She had grease on her hands and looked tired. "Working late again?" asked. "The air recyclers in Section C keep acting up," Sara said, wiping her forehead. "I swear, these aliens build amazing spaceships but can't maintain a simple filter system." Smiled. Sara was his only real friend on the station. She didn't treat him like he was less important just because he cleaned floors. They often had lunch together in the human quarters. "You should get some sleep," said. Yeah, you too, old man," Sara teased. "Don't work too hard." She waved and headed toward the lift, watched her go, then returned to his cart. He had 6 more sections to clean before his shift ended. In the main concourse, he saw talking to a group of alien officials, was a human liaison officer. Her job was to make humanity look good to the other species. She wore a fancy uniform and always spoke in a polite, diplomatic voice. She had tried to talk to a few times, asking why he settled for janitorial work when humans needed to prove themselves. He had just shrugged. Someone had to clean the station. Moved past them quietly, emptying more waste bins. The aliens didn't stop talking. They were discussing trade agreements and colony rights. Boring stuff. He focused on his work. Near the security office, he saw reviewing reports on was the human security chief, a former military man with sharp eyes and a serious face. He nodded as he passed. "Quiet night?" asked. "Always is," replied. "You ever think about doing something more challenging?" asked. "You've got a military bearing about you. I could use someone with discipline on my team." "I'm happy where I am," said simply. Studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "If you change your mind, let me know." Nodded and continued down the corridor. He had this conversation with every few months. The security chief saw something in him but never explained what. It was better that way. As he worked, his mind wandered. He thought about his small apartment, about the book he was reading, about the noodles he would make for dinner tomorrow. Simple thoughts. A simple life. Exactly what he wanted. But then the alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. Stopped pushing his cart and looked up. The alarm system only activated for serious emergencies. He had never heard it before. A voice boomed over the station's speakers. It wasn't the usual station AI. It was rough and aggressive. "Attention all station occupants. This facility is now under control of the Dominion. Do not resist. Proceed to the main concourse immediately. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." His expression didn't change, but his hand tightened on the cart's handle. People started running past him. Aliens of all species, screaming and panicking. Some were diplomats, others were workers like him. They all rushed toward the main concourse as ordered. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. 6 large aliens appeared, wearing thick armor and carrying massive weapons. They were soldiers, had read about them. They were a militant species, always causing trouble in the outer colonies. One of the soldiers saw him and walked over. The alien was twice size, with gray skin and 4 arms. "You, human, move to the concourse," the soldier growled. "I'm just a janitor," said quietly. "I need to finish my—" The soldier shoved him hard, stumbled back against the wall. "Move or die," the soldier said. Then the soldier kicked his cart. Cleaning supplies spilled across the floor. The soldier laughed and walked away to join his squad. Slowly picked himself up. He looked at his overturned cart, at the spilled supplies, at the soldiers disappearing around the corner. His face remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. He began picking up his supplies, moving carefully and methodically. As he worked, he could hear more announcements. They had taken over the entire station. They had hostages. They were making demands to the Galactic Council. Other workers ran past him, terrified. An alien called out, "Aren't you coming?" In a moment said, "I need to put these away properly." The alien stared at him like he was crazy, then ran off. Finished collecting his supplies, but instead of going to the concourse, he pushed his cart toward the maintenance tunnels. The entrance was hidden behind a wall panel that most people didn't notice. He opened it with his access card and slipped inside. The tunnels were dark and narrow. They ran throughout the entire station, connecting all the major systems, had mapped every inch of them over the past 3 years. He pushed his cart deep into the tunnels, to a section where no one ever came. Then he stopped and opened a hidden compartment in the cart's base. Inside was equipment that no janitor should have: weapons, tools, tactical gear, communication devices, all carefully maintained and ready to use. Took off his janitor's jacket and put on a dark, form-fitting outfit. He checked the weapons, his movements quick and practiced. Everything was exactly where he expected it to be. Back in the main areas of the station, he could hear screaming. They were gathering everyone together. They would be separating hostages, making threats, setting up their control systems. Closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had hoped to never do this again. He had built a quiet life, a simple life, a life where he didn't have to remember what he used to be. But now there was no choice. He looked at his reflection in a polished panel. The face looking back at him wasn't a tired janitor anymore. It was someone else, someone from a long time ago. Somewhere in the station, Sora was probably scared, was probably being held with the other diplomats, was probably trying to figure out how to fight back with limited resources. They didn't know that help was already here. They didn't know that the quiet janitor who pushed a cart every night was about to become their worst nightmare. Or rather, this worst nightmare. Picked up a small device and attached it to his ear. He activated it with a tap. "Systems check," he whispered to himself. His equipment lit up. Everything was operational. He had been maintaining it all for 3 years just in case. Old habits never died. He moved deeper into the maintenance tunnels, his footsteps silent. The station was his home. He knew every duct, every access panel, every blind spot in the security cameras. They had made a mistake coming here. They saw a diplomatic station with minimal defenses. They saw humans as weak newcomers who wouldn't fight back. They didn't see the janitor. And that thought, as he disappeared into the shadows, was their first mistake. In the main concourse, over 300 people stood in frightened groups. Aliens from dozens of species huddled together. Humans, including, and were kept in a separate area. Soldiers surrounded them all, weapons ready. The commander stood on a platform above the crowd. He was massive, even for his species, with scars covering his gray skin. His armor gleamed under the lights. "Listen carefully," the commander announced. "We have control of this station. We have disabled your communications. We have sealed all exits. Your military forces cannot reach you without killing everyone on board." He paused, letting the words sink in. "The Galactic Council has 48 hours to meet our demands. If they refuse, we will start executing hostages, one every hour until they agree." The crowd erupted in panicked voices. Some people were crying, others argued with the soldiers. They didn't care, they just pushed everyone together. Stood near, her face pale but controlled. "Do you think Earth knows what's happening?" she whispered. "Even if they do, they can't help us from here," said quietly. "We're on our own." Meanwhile, deep in the maintenance tunnels, moved like a shadow. He crawled through a ventilation shaft, his tools attached to his belt. Years ago, these tunnels had been his home during long missions. It felt strange to be back in them for this reason. He reached a junction and pulled out a small. The screen showed the station's layout with red dots marking positions. He had tapped into their communication network 10 minutes ago. They weren't being careful. They thought they had already won. Counted the dots: 200 soldiers, 4 battle mechs in the hangar bay, shield generators on 3 levels. It was a professional operation, but every operation had weaknesses. He pressed a button on his pad and waited. Somewhere in Section E, a maintenance bot activated. It rolled through the corridor, cleaning the floor as programmed. No one paid attention to it. Maintenance bots were everywhere on the station. But this bot had been modified. As it passed a weapon cache, a small device dropped from its underside. The device attached itself to the power conduit beneath the cache. Then the bot rolled away. Smiled, 1 down, 20 more to go. He moved to another access point and opened a panel. Inside was the station's power routing system. He had studied this for months, learning every circuit and backup system. Now he started making changes, small ones, nothing that would be noticed immediately. But when he needed them, these changes would matter. 2 soldiers patrolled a corridor near the engineering section. They were bored. This was an easy assignment. Just watch some empty hallways. "This is pointless," one soldier said. "Everyone is already captured." "Commander's orders," the other replied. "We patrol until—" He stopped talking. His partner had disappeared. The soldier called out, "Where are you?" No answer. He activated his communicator. "Command, this is Patrol 7. I've lost contact with my partner in Section D4. Static crackled, then a voice responded. "Check the area, report back." The soldier walked forward carefully, his weapon raised. He saw his partner's weapon on the ground. Then he found himself, unconscious and stuffed into a recycling chute. "Command is down, someone is." Something hit him from behind. The world went dark. In the security station that had taken over, an officer stared at his screen. "Commander, we have a problem." The commander walked over. "What is it?" "Patrol 7 just went silent. Both soldiers are down." "Who did it?" "Unknown. The security cameras in that section show nothing, just empty corridors." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Send another patrol, full squad, find whoever did this." But finding was easier said than done. He was already 3 sections away, moving through the air ducts. He had learned long ago how to avoid cameras, where to step, how to move, when to be still. It was like a dance he had practiced for decades. He reached the engineering section and carefully opened a vent cover. Below him, he saw Sora hiding under a console. She was alone. Smart girl. She must have locked herself in when the attack started. Dropped down silently. Sora spun around, her eyes wide with fear. Then she recognized him. "Thank God," I thought. She stopped. "Wait, what are you wearing? What is all that equipment?" "Listen carefully," said quietly. "Stay here, lock the doors, don't come out for anyone except me. Do you understand?" "What's happening? Why do you have weapons?" "I don't have time to explain. Just promise me you'll stay here." Sora looked at him, really looked at him. His stance was different, his voice was different. This wasn't the friendly janitor she knew. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who can help," said, "but only if you stay safe, promise me." "I promise," Sora said, nodded and climbed back into the vent. As he disappeared, Sora sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. What was happening? Who was her friend? She turned to her terminal and started searching. Old files, military records. She typed in his name and added keywords. Nothing came up at first. Then she remembered something. A story from years ago. A legend from the war between humans and the... She typed Phantom Protocol. Files appeared. Classified documents. She shouldn't have access to these, but someone had left them in the system. Maybe intentionally. She read the first file and her blood ran cold. Phantom Protocol, deep cover operative designation, specialized in infiltration and station sabotage, responsible for ending the human war by single-handedly infiltrating and disabling the enemy flagship. Status, killed in action, mission classified. There was no name, no picture, just a record of impossible achievements. One person who fought like an entire army. Sora's terminal beeped. A message appeared from an unknown source. "Do you know what Phantom Protocol is?" Her fingers trembled as she typed back. "It's a myth, a story from 20 years ago. That person would be dead by now." The response came quickly. "Old enough to want a quiet retirement. Stay hidden, Sora." She stared at the screen. Then she understood. The janitor. The quiet man who pushed a cleaning cart and never complained. Her friend who always seemed to know more than he said. He was Phantom Protocol. Back in the main concourse, the commander received another report. 5 more soldiers missing. A weapon cache offline. Communications jamming flickering in several sections. "This is not random," his second-in-command said. "Someone is targeting our operation systematically." "Find them," the commander ordered. "Increase patrols, check every section." But was always 2 steps ahead. While they sent soldiers to Section D, he was working in Section F while they secured the armory. He was sabotaging their shield generators. He moved through the station like water, flowing around obstacles, finding every crack in their defenses. He stopped at another junction and pulled out a small device. It was a signal jammer he had built himself years ago. He attached it to the communication hub. It wouldn't block their signals completely. That would be too obvious. Instead, it would add tiny delays, make their coordination just a little bit slower, small advantages that would add up. In the hangar bay, the 4 battle mechs stood ready. They were massive machines, armed with cannons and shields. This ultimate weapon if anyone tried to retake the station. But 3 days ago had cleaned this bay. He had wiped down the mechs as part of his normal duties. No one had stopped him. Why would they? He was just a janitor. While he cleaned, he had done something else, something small, a modification to their power systems, a piece of code inserted into their operating system. It wouldn't do anything yet, but when he needed it, those mechs would become very expensive statues. The commander stood before the hostages again. His patience was wearing thin. "Someone on this station is interfering with our operation," he announced. "If they do not surrender immediately, we will execute a hostage. You have 1 hour." The crowd erupted in panic. People begged and cried. The soldiers remained unmoved. "Try to push forward. You're making a mistake when our people find out." A soldier hit him with a weapon, fell to his knees. Grabbed his shoulder. "Don't, we have to wait." "Wait for what?" hissed. "We're going to die here." But had noticed something, a reflection in the polished floor of the concourse. High above them, on a catwalk that was supposed to be locked, someone stood in the shadows, just for a second. Then they were gone. She couldn't see who it was, but something about the figure's posture seemed familiar. The hour passed slowly. The commander checked his chronometer. "Time is up. Bring forward a hostage." 2 soldiers grabbed a young alien diplomat and dragged him to the center of the concourse. The alien was crying, begging in his native language. The commander raised his weapon. Then every light in the station went dark. Emergency lights activated, but they were dim and flickering. The soldiers shouted to each other, trying to maintain control. The crowd panicked. And in the darkness, a calm voice spoke over every speaker in the station. "To the Dominion forces, you should leave." The commander's face twisted in anger. "Who is this?" "I'm the janitor's," voice replied. "I clean up messes and you're a mess." The commander stared at the speakers in disbelief. The janitor, the human who pushes a cart. Around him, his soldiers shifted nervously. The emergency lights cast strange shadows across the concourse. The hostages were silent now, listening. "I've seen you, human," the commander said into his communicator. "You're old, weak. What can you possibly do against 200 warriors?" There was a pause. When spoke again, his voice was calm, almost gentle. "I've been on this station for 3 years. I know every corridor, every vent, every power system, every blind spot. You've been here for 3 hours." The commander laughed, but it sounded forced. "So what? You know where things are. You're still just one old man with a mop." "No," said, "I'm someone who prepared for bad days, and this is a bad day." The lights flickered again. This time, sections of the station went completely dark while others glowed too bright. The soldiers raised their weapons, looking around in confusion. "What's happening?" one soldier shouted. Their commander checked his. The readings made no sense. Power was routing to random sections. Life support was fluctuating. The security doors were locking and unlocking on their own. "He's in the control systems," the second in command said. "He must have access to the main computer." "Then disconnect him," the commander roared. But had spent 3 years building into every system. He had access points that didn't exist in any official records, routes that bypassed every security protocol. The station's computer systems might as well have been his personal toys. In Section A, a group of soldiers suddenly felt lighter. The artificial gravity was reducing. "What is this?" one soldier said as he started floating upward. His squad members grabbed onto railings, trying to stay grounded. Then, just as suddenly, the gravity increased to twice normal. They all crashed to the floor. In Section C, the temperature dropped rapidly. Soldiers watched their breath form clouds in the air. Their armor's heating systems struggled to compensate. "This is impossible," one muttered. "How is he controlling everything?" In the hangar bay, technicians tried to activate the battle mechs. They needed heavy firepower to search the station properly, but when they powered up the machines, the mechs didn't respond. "The control systems are locked," a technician reported. "I can't override them." "Try harder," an officer shouted. The technician typed frantically on his console. Then the mech systems activated on their own. The machine took one step forward, then froze. Its weapons powered on, then off. It was like watching a puppet with tangled strings. "Something's wrong with the operating system," the technician said. "It's like there's a virus, but I can't find it." He didn't know that the virus had been installed 3 days ago by a janitor who wiped down the machines. A janitor who knew exactly what he was doing. Back in the engineering section, Sora watched everything through her terminal. She had access to the station's systems and she could see what was doing. It was brilliant. He wasn't just hacking systems. He was turning the entire station into a weapon. A message appeared on her screen from, "I need you to do something for me." She typed back quickly, "Anything, what do you need?" "In 5 minutes, reroute power from Grid 7 to Grid 3. Can you do that?" "Yes, but that will overload the capacitors in Section G." "I know, that's the plan." Sora took a deep breath. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she trusted her friend. She set up the power reroute and waited. In the main concourse, the commander was losing patience. The lights were still acting strange. His soldiers were reporting problems all over the station, and that calm voice kept speaking over the speakers. "You made 3 mistakes," said. "Shut up," the commander shouted. "First, you assumed humans were weak because we're new to the galaxy. You judged us without knowing us." The soldiers looked at each other. They had assumed that humans were newcomers, their technology was primitive, their military was small. Second, you ignored the support staff. Janitors, engineers, cooks, people you think don't matter, but we see everything, we go everywhere, and nobody notices us. Standing among the hostages felt a chill run down her spine. The quiet janitor, the man she had barely acknowledged for 3 years. She had asked him once why he did such simple work. He had just smiled and said someone had to do it. Third, continued, you gave me 48 hours in a closed environment. That's 47 hours more than I needed. The commander's face went dark. Enough talk, find him, kill him. He pointed at a squad of 10 soldiers. You, search section D through F, shoot anything that moves. The soldiers marched off, weapons ready. They moved in tight formation, checking every corner, professional, disciplined. They never saw coming. The first soldier felt something hit his neck, a dart. He had just enough time to feel surprised before he collapsed. The others spun around, but there was no one there, just empty corridor. Then the lights went out in that section completely. The soldiers activated their helmet lights. The beams cut through the darkness. "Stay together," the squad leader said. "Watch your corners." A cleaning bot rolled past them. They barely glanced at it, just a machine doing its job. The bot stopped behind them and opened a hidden compartment. A small device rolled out. Gas hissed from it. The soldiers started coughing. Their vision blurred. One by one, they dropped to the floor. When they woke up hours later, they were locked in a storage room with their weapons gone. The commander received the report with growing anger. Another squad down. No signs of the attacker, no clear enemy to fight. "This is ridiculous," he said. "He's one man, one old human." His second-in-command looked worried. "Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. This station is not secure. We could move the hostages to our ship and—" "No," the commander shouted. "We don't retreat from one janitor. Send 20 soldiers. Send 50, find him." But sending more soldiers didn't help. Was everywhere and nowhere. He moved through walls, through floors, through spaces that shouldn't exist. They were fighting an enemy they couldn't see, in an environment that was actively working against them. Still among the hostages had been watching carefully. He saw the pattern. They were scared. They were losing control. Something was happening that they didn't understand. He noticed a small cleaning panel on the wall nearby. No one was paying attention to it. He slowly moved closer, pretending to adjust his position. He leaned against the wall. Something metal touched his hand. He looked down. In the tiny gap of the cleaning panel there was a weapon, a small one but enough to be useful. He carefully pulled it into his sleeve. He glanced up at the catwalk where he had seen the shadow earlier. He couldn't see anyone now, but he knew someone was there. Someone was helping them. Across the concourse, other hostages who had security training were also finding weapons in strange places. Behind pipes, under loose floor panels, in air vents, small caches that hadn't been there before. Had been busy. In Section G, exactly 5 minutes after her conversation with Sora executed the power reroute. The capacitors overloaded with a loud bang. Sparks flew from the walls. The soldiers in that section shouted and ran, but the explosion wasn't dangerous. It was just loud and bright, a distraction. While they were focused on the sparks, cleaning bots rolled through the corridors. The soldiers didn't pay attention to them, but as each bot passed, it dropped something small. Devices that attached to the floor, walls, ceiling. When the soldiers finally calmed down and returned to their posts, they didn't notice the changes. But their communications were now even more disrupted. Their sensors were reading false information. Their equipment was slowly being compromised. The commander stood in his command center, staring at the chaos on his screens. Over 20 soldiers down, multiple systems failing, equipment malfunctioning, and he still hadn't seen the enemy even once. "Get me a direct line to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "We're moving up the timeline." A technician worked on the communications. "Sir, our long-range systems are experiencing interference." "Then fix them." But the interference wasn't something they could fix. Had physically damaged the main transmitter during his first hour in the maintenance tunnels. They didn't know it yet, but they were completely cut off from outside support. The commander turned to the hostages. His face was twisted with rage. "You human diplomat, come here." Stepped forward trying to look brave. Her heart was pounding. "Tell your janitor to surrender," the commander said, "or I will start executing hostages right now, starting with you." Looked at him steadily. "Even if I wanted to, I don't know how to contact him." "Then pray he's listening," the commander said. He raised his weapon and pointed it at her head. The entire concourse went silent. Aliens and humans alike held their breath. Then's voice came over the speakers again, but this time it wasn't calm, it was cold. "Point that weapon somewhere else." The commander's hand was shaking, not from fear, from anger. "Show yourself, coward, fight me face to face." "You want to see me?" asked. "Fine, look up." Everyone looked up at the catwalk circling the concourse. At first, they saw nothing. Then a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was no longer in his janitor's uniform, dressed in dark tactical gear, standing calmly 40 feet above them. The soldiers raised their weapons toward him, but didn't move. He just stood there looking down at them. "I'm right here," he said, "but I'm giving you one last chance. Leave this station, take your soldiers and go. Nobody else has to get hurt." The commander laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "You think you can stop us? Look around you. We have 200 soldiers, we have weapons, we have hostages. What do you have?" Tilted his head slightly. "I have home advantage and 48 hours of preparation. That's more than enough." He pulled something from his belt. It looked like a small device. He pressed a button. All over the station, the devices that the cleaning bots had placed activated simultaneously. They emitted a high-frequency electromagnetic pulse. It wasn't strong enough to hurt anyone, but it was perfectly tuned to disrupt technology. The soldiers' shields flickered and died. Their advanced weapons shut down. Their communication systems went silent. Even their armor's power systems started failing. The commander stared in horror at his weapon. The display was blank. The power core was dead. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I cleaned," said simply. "That's my job." Then he disappeared back into the shadows, and chaos erupted across the station. The main concourse erupted into chaos. Soldiers grabbed at their weapons, trying to restart them. The hostages sensed the shift in power. Some started backing away. Others looked for opportunities to escape. Felt the weapon in his sleeve come to life. Whatever had done, it hadn't affected human technology, only equipment. That was precise. That was planned. He caught the eye of another security officer among the hostages. The man nodded slightly. He had found a weapon too. Around the concourse, 5 more people gave small signals. They were ready. The commander was shouting orders, but his communicator was dead. He had to yell across the concourse. "Reform defensive positions. Use backup weapons." His soldiers scrambled to obey. But their backup weapons were kinetic firearms, old-fashioned and less powerful, and they were confused, scared. Their advanced technology had failed them in seconds. Above them moved along the catwalk. He was visible now, a deliberate choice. He wanted them to see him, wanted them to focus their attention upward. While they watched him, they didn't notice the hostages slowly repositioning. Didn't see, and the others getting ready. A soldier fired at. The bullet sparked off the metal railing. dropped flat, rolled, and disappeared through a maintenance hatch. After him, the commander roared. 20 soldiers rushed for the access stairs. They pounded up the metal steps, weapons ready. When they reached the catwalk, was gone. "Split up," the squad leader said. "Search every direction." They divided into 4 groups of 5. Each group took a different path along the catwalk. The paths led to different sections of the station. The first group made it 50 feet before the floor beneath them suddenly opened. It was a maintenance hatch they hadn't noticed. They fell through, landing in a recycling sorting room. The hatch slammed shut above them. The second group reached a doorway. They entered carefully, weapons raised. The door closed behind them and locked. Then gas started filling the room, not lethal, just a strong sleeping agent. They were unconscious in 30 seconds. The third group saw at the end of a long corridor. He was just standing there, waiting. They charged forward. Halfway down the corridor, they triggered a sensor. The walls suddenly became electrified. Not enough to kill in their armor, but enough to stun them completely. They collapsed in a heap. The fourth group was smarter. They moved slowly, checking for traps. They almost made it to the engineering section before dropped from a ceiling vent directly among them. What happened next was over in seconds, moved like water, like wind. He wasn't faster than them. He was just more efficient. Every movement had purpose. Every strike hit exactly where it needed to. One soldier swung at him, ducked under the blow, and struck the soldier's knee. The alien went down. Another tried to grab him from behind, used the alien's own momentum to flip him over his shoulder. A third raised a weapon. His hand moved in a blur, striking the alien's wrist and catching the falling weapon. In 6 seconds, all 5 soldiers were on the ground, groaning. Didn't stop to check on them. He was already moving again, heading back toward the main concourse. The commander watched his soldiers fall on his screens. The security cameras were working again, and they showed everything. He saw moving through his forces like they were training dummies. "This is impossible," the second in command whispered. "He's just one human. How is he doing this?" The commander's face was dark with rage. "I don't care how. He dies today." He turned to his remaining soldiers in the concourse. About 150 were left. "Everyone, defensive circle around the hostages. When he comes, we kill him together." But didn't come. Instead, the lights went out again. This time they stayed out. Only the emergency lights glowed dim and red. Then's voice echoed through the concourse, but it wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere. "You wanted to see what one human can do," he said. "Let me show you." The cleaning bots that had been scattered around the station suddenly activated. There were dozens of them. They rolled toward the concourse from every direction. The soldiers laughed nervously. "What are these supposed to do? Clean us to death?" The bots stopped at the edges of the concourse. Then they opened compartments that shouldn't exist. Inside each one was a small projector. The projectors activated. Suddenly there were holographic images everywhere. Images of, dozens of them, all moving, all looking real. The soldiers spun around, trying to figure out which one was real. None of them were. While they were distracted, and the other armed hostages moved, they struck fast and hard. The soldiers nearest to them went down before they realized what was happening. Other hostages who had been prepared scrambled for the dropped weapons. Within seconds, 20 hostages were armed and fighting back. They tried to respond, but they were surrounded, confused, and fighting in dim light. Their advanced sensors were still offline. They couldn't tell friend from foe in the chaos. The commander watched his perfect plan fall apart. He grabbed his second in command. "Get to the hangar. Activate the battle mechs manually if you have to. We need heavy firepower." The second in command ran, taking 10 soldiers with him. They rushed through the corridors toward the hangar bay. They didn't see following them in the shadows above. In the hangar, the 4 massive battle mechs stood silent. The technicians had been trying to restart them for an hour with no success. "Forget the computer systems," the second-in-command ordered. "Open the manual access panels. We'll pilot them directly." The technicians climbed up the mechs and opened the emergency panels. Inside were manual controls, old-fashioned but functional. They started working. One mech powered up. Its eyes glowed red. The pilot inside tested the controls. Everything worked. "Get the others online," the second-in-command said. "We're going to end this." But as the second mech powered up, something went wrong. The control panel sparked. The mech took one step forward, then its leg locked up. It toppled over with a crash that shook the entire hangar. The third mech started moving on its own. Its pilot wasn't in the seat yet. It walked forward, arms swinging randomly, smashing into equipment and walls. "Shut it down," someone screamed. The fourth mech's weapons activated. They didn't fire, just spun around wildly. Everyone in the hangar dove for cover. Dropped from a ceiling beam, landing on the catwalk overlooking the bay. He held a small control device. With a few taps, the mechs all stopped moving. "I told you," he said calmly. "I've been preparing." The second-in-command stared at him. You did something to the mechs. When?" "3 days ago," said. "I was cleaning the hangar. You walked right past me, didn't even look at me." He pocketed the device. "That's the thing about being invisible. You can be anywhere." The soldiers in the hangar raised their weapons. Didn't move. He just stood there on the catwalk, completely exposed. "Fire," the second-in-command ordered. They fired, every weapon pointed at and pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. Held up another device. "Magnetic field generator. I've been placing them around the station for the past hour. Your kinetic weapons won't fire within their range." He put that device away too. "You can't win this. You never could. The moment you stepped on my station, this was over." The second-in-command made a decision. He charged forward, drawing a blade. If technology wouldn't work, he would do this the old way. He was fast, trained, experienced. He crossed the distance to the catwalk stairs in seconds and leaped up them. Waited for him calmly. They fought on the narrow catwalk. There was larger, stronger, with 4 arms that could strike from multiple angles, but was something else. Every attack they made wasn't there. He moved like he could see the future, always one step ahead. The swung high, ducked and struck the alien's knee. The swung low, jumped and kicked the alien's chest. The tried to grapple, twisted out of the grip and used the alien's own weight against him. In 2 minutes, the second-in-command was on his knees, breathing hard, his blade on the floor. "How," he gasped, "how are you so good?" Looked down at him. 30 years of practice, 30 years of staying ready for bad days, and 30 years of hopping I'd never have to use it again. He pulled out restraints and secured the alien. "But you made today a bad day." Back in the main concourse, the fight was turning. They were outnumbered now. More hostages had armed themselves, and his people were pushing them back. The commander stood in the center, his personal shield generator the only one still working. He was the only whose equipment still functioned. Appeared at the main entrance of the concourse. He walked in slowly, calmly. Everyone stopped fighting to watch. "Just you and me now," said to the commander. The commander laughed bitterly. Finally, a real fight. He was wearing powered armor, the most advanced kind. It made him stronger, faster, harder to hurt. His shield shimmered around him. His weapon was a plasma rifle, the kind that could cut through walls. Had none of that, just his tactical gear and his weapons, just his training and his experience. They faced each other across the concourse. "I'm going to enjoy this," the commander said. "I'm not," replied. "I don't enjoy fighting, I never have." The commander charged. His powered armor made him fast despite his size. His first strike could have broken concrete. Moved, not away, toward. He slipped inside the commander's reach and struck at the armor's joints. The powered armor was strong, but joints were always vulnerable. The commander swung again, rolled under his arm and came up behind him. He attached something small to the armor's power pack. The commander spun, trying to grab him, was already gone, running toward a support pillar. "Stop running, coward," the commander roared. He raised his plasma rifle and fired. The shot hit the pillar, melting through metal, dove behind cover as another shot followed him. "You can't hide forever," the commander shouted. "I'm not hiding," said. He pressed a button on his wrist device. The small device he had attached to the commander's armor activated. It was a feedback loop, sending the armor's own power back through its circuits. The commander's armor seized up. He couldn't move his arms or legs. The power system was fighting itself. Stepped out from cover. He walked up to the frozen commander and looked him in the eyes. "I've been maintaining this station's power systems for 3 years," he said quietly. "I know electricity better than you know your own armor." He reached up and deactivated the armor's power. The commander collapsed to the floor, the armor now just dead weight. Around them, the remaining soldiers dropped their weapons. They were beaten. They knew it. And his people moved in to secure them. The hostages were cheering, crying, hugging each other. Walked up too, she looked at him like she had never seen him before. "Who are you really?" Took a tired breath. "Just a janitor who's good at his job." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." An alarm beeped. The external communication systems were coming back online. Galactic military forces would be able to contact the station soon. The crisis was over. It had taken 12 minutes from the moment showed himself to the moment the last surrendered. 12 minutes to save 300 hostages and defeat 200 elite soldiers. Just another day for Phantom Protocol. The next 2 hours were chaos of a different kind. Medical teams arrived. Security forces secured the prisoners. Diplomats from dozens of species wanted statements. Everyone wanted to talk to the human janitor who had saved them all. Avoided most of them. He helped move the wounded to medical bay. He checked on Sara in engineering. He made sure all the civilians were safe. Then he tried to slip away. Found him in a quiet corridor. "You can't just leave. The Galactic Council wants to speak with you." "I have work to finish," said, gesturing to his cart. It was still in the maintenance tunnel where he had left it. "You're joking, right?" Stared at him. "You just defeated an entire military force. You saved everyone on this station, and you want to go back to cleaning." "Someone has to," said simply. Grabbed his arm. "Stop, just stop with that act. I know what you did. I saw the files. You're not just a janitor." Looked at her for a long moment. His expression was tired, sad even. "That's exactly what I am," he said. "The other thing, the person I used to be. I left him behind a long time ago." "But you came back," said. "When we needed you, you came back." "I never left," replied. "I was always here. I just hoped I'd never have to do that again." He gently pulled his arm free and walked away. Watched him go, too confused to follow. In the engineering section, Sora was running diagnostics on all the systems had modified. It was incredible work. Every change was precise, efficient, reversible. He hadn't damaged anything permanently. He had just borrowed control for a while. She heard footsteps and looked up, stood in the doorway. "Are you angry?" he asked. Sara didn't answer immediately. She closed her terminal and turned to face him. "You lied to me," she said. "No, I told you I was a janitor, that's the truth. You didn't tell me you were also a legendary special operative who everyone thought was dead." Sat down on a crate, he looked old suddenly, tired. "That person is dead. I killed him on purpose. I was done with that life." "Why?" Sora asked, sitting across from him. "Why give up being a hero?" Was quiet for a moment. "Do you know what I did during the Human War?" "The file said you infiltrated their flagship, disabled their entire fleet, ended the war. Yes, said. And do you know how many people died while I was doing that? Sora shook her head. Over 3,000, said softly. Soldiers, ship crew. Some of them were just technicians, cooks, janitors, people doing their jobs. I killed them because that was my mission. His hands clenched. I was good at it, too good. They wanted to send me on more missions, make me do it again and again, but I couldn't. Every face haunted me, every life I took. So you faked your death, Sora said. I reported myself as killed in action, left everything behind, changed my name, became someone new. He looked at her. I became someone who maintains things instead of destroying them, someone who cleans up messes instead of making them. But you kept your skills, Sora pointed out. Old habits, said. I couldn't turn off the training, couldn't stop being prepared, so I found useful things to do with it. I learned every system on this station, made myself ready for emergencies, just in case. And today was the emergency. Today was the emergency, he agreed. Sora reached over and put her hand on his. For what it's worth, you saved us all today, and you didn't kill anyone doing it. Look surprised, what? All the soldiers, every single one is alive. Some have broken bones, concussions, bruises, but nobody died. You could have killed them easily, but you didn't. Sat back, he hadn't really thought about it. The fighting had been instinct muscle memory, but she was right. He had used non-lethal methods for everything. Stun darts, sleeping gas, pressure points, restraints. Maybe, he said slowly, the janitor changed the soldier more than the soldier changed the janitor. Sora smiled. Maybe are we still friends? If you can forgive me for keeping secrets. I can forgive that, Sora said, but you're buying lunch for the next month. Laughed, it felt good to laugh. That evening, a formal meeting was called in the station's council chamber. Representatives from every major galactic power attended. The prisoners had been transferred to military custody. Now everyone wanted answers. Had tried to avoid the meeting, but had physically dragged him there. You're not getting out of this one, had said. They want to meet the man who did the impossible. The council chamber was huge and intimidating. Dozens of aliens sat in a circle, looking down at the floor where stood. He felt very small. A tall alien with blue skin spoke first. She was the head of the Galactic Council. We have been informed that a single human operative defeated 200 soldiers and saved this station. Is this true? Yes, answered. She stood beside as the human liaison. This is. He has been employed as a janitor on the station for 3 years. Murmurs ran through the council. A janitor, impossible. Another council member spoke. We have also been told that this human is actually a military operative known as Phantom Protocol, a designation from the human war. More murmurs. Phantom Protocol was a legend even among aliens, the ghost who ended a war. Stepped forward. I was Phantom Protocol, past tense. I retired from military service 18 years ago. I have been a civilian since then. Yet you retained your abilities, the blue-skinned counselor said, and you prepared for this exact situation. Why? Because bad things happen, said simply. Because peace is fragile. Because someone needs to be ready when others aren't. An alien counselor clicked its mandibles. You humans are strange. You hide your greatest warriors as maintenance workers. Why? Spoke up from where he stood near the entrance. Because we don't measure worth by combat ability. Chose to be a janitor because that work matters too. Keeping a station clean and safe is just as important as fighting. But clearly he was more than a janitor, another counselor argued. No, said firmly. I am a janitor, that is my job, that is what I do every day. What happened today was an exception, a bad day that required old skills. The blue-skinned counselor studied him. We would like to offer you a position as head of station security, with full military authority and resources. No, thank you, said immediately. The room went silent. No one refused the Galactic Council. "You refuse?" the counselor asked. "I like my job," said. "I like the quiet. I like maintaining things. I like making places safe through preparation, not fighting." "But you could do so much more," another counselor said. "Train others, lead security forces, help protect the entire galaxy." "I'm protecting it right here," replied. "This station is a hub of peace and diplomacy, keeping it clean, keeping it maintained, keeping it ready for emergencies. That is protecting the galaxy." The counselors looked at each other. This human made no sense to them. The blue-skinned counselor finally nodded. "Very well, you may keep your position, but we request that you train our security forces in your methods." "I can do that," agreed. "During my normal working hours, I'm not giving up my night shifts." "Acceptable," the counselor said. As left the chamber, he heard the aliens talking. "Humans are truly strange. They let their best warrior mop floors. Perhaps that is why they are dangerous. They could be anyone." Smiled to himself as he walked away. A week later, things had mostly returned to normal. The damage from the attack was repaired. New security measures were in place. The station was safe again. Pushed his cart down the familiar corridors. It was midnight, his favorite time. The station was quiet. But things were different now. Aliens who used to ignore him now nodded respectfully. Some looked nervous when he passed. Others tried to talk to him, asking about the battle. He answered politely but kept moving. He had work to do. In one corridor, he found a group of young alien spray painting graffiti on a wall. They froze when they saw him. One of them said, "We were just..." Handed them cleaning supplies from his cart. "You were just about to clean that up, right?" They nodded frantically and started scrubbing. Watched for a moment, then continued on his way. Being a legend had some advantages. He met near the diplomatic offices. She was working late, as usual. "Still trying to change the galaxy?" he asked. "Someone has to," she replied. She studied him. "Earth wants you to come home. They want to give you medals, make you a hero." "Earth thinks I'm dead," said. "Let's keep it that way." They know the truth now. The whole galaxy knows. "Knowing and believing are different things," said. "Give it a few months. The story will become a legend. The legend will become a myth. People will forget the details. They'll remember a story about a mysterious janitor, but not who he was." "You hope," said. "I hope," agreed. She smiled. "You know, I used to think you were wasting your potential. Now I think maybe you found exactly where you're supposed to be." "Thank you," said, and he meant it. Later that night, he finished his rounds and sat in the maintenance break room. This was his favorite spot. Quiet, peaceful. A window looked out at the stars. Sora found him there, as she often did at the end of his shift. "Long night?" she asked, sitting down with 2 cups of coffee. "Normal night," said, accepting a cup. "The way I like it." "The Galactic Council asked me to help them understand your modifications to the station," Sora said. "They want to implement similar systems on other stations." "Good," said. "Preparation saves lives." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking coffee and watching the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Sora asked, "giving up the exciting life?" Thought about it. He thought about the battles he had fought, the missions he had completed, the legend he had been. Then he thought about his quiet corridors, his cleaning cart, his simple routine, the peaceful station he helped maintain. "No," he said finally. "The most important battles are the ones that never happen. The best victories are the ones where nobody has to fight." "That's very wise," Sora said. "That's very tired," corrected with a smile. "I'm old, I want peace. And if another crisis happens..." Looked at her. His eyes were calm but serious. "Then I'll be ready. I'm always ready. That's what being Phantom Protocol really means. Not fighting, being prepared so others don't have to." Sora nodded. "I can live with that." They finished their coffee as the station's artificial sun began to rise. A new day was starting. People would come out of their quarters. The corridors would fill with aliens going about their business. Diplomats would make speeches. Traders would make deals. Engineers would fix things. And would push his cart, clean the floors, empty the waste bins, and make sure everything worked properly. Just a janitor doing his job. The best warriors, he had learned long ago, are the ones you never see fight. The real heroes are the ones who prevent the crisis rather than solve it. The strongest protection comes from preparation, not reaction. He stood up and stretched. His shift was technically over, but he had noticed a loose panel in Section G yesterday. He should fix that before someone tripped. "Going already?" Sora asked. "Maintenance never stops," said with a smile. As he pushed his cart out of the break room, Sora called after him, "Hey." He turned. "Thank you," she said, "for being here, for watching over us." He nodded. "It's my job. Someone has to take out the trash." And with that, he disappeared into the corridors, just another janitor on the night shift. But everyone who passed him now knew the truth. The human pushing the cleaning cart wasn't just a janitor. He was the person who kept them safe while they slept. He was the reason bad days didn't become worse days. He was Phantom Protocol. And as long as he was here, the station would always be ready. 3 months later, the story had spread across the galaxy. In bars and ships, people told tales of the legendary janitor who defeated an army. Some versions were accurate, some were wild exaggerations. But in all versions, the message was the same: never underestimate humans, especially the quiet ones. Heard the stories sometimes. He never corrected them. Let them think what they wanted, as long as they remembered to be cautious, to be prepared, to respect everyone regardless of their job. He pushed his cart through the corridors, humming quietly to himself. The squeaky wheel still hadn't been fixed. He kind of liked it that way. It was familiar, comfortable. A young human diplomat, new to the station, passed him in the hall. She was too busy reading to notice him. Smiled. Good. That meant things were normal. That meant people felt safe enough to not pay attention. That meant he was doing his job right. He reached the end of the corridor and turned the corner, disappearing into the maintenance tunnel. Just a janitor. Nothing special. Exactly the way he wanted it.